The Versus series is back. When was the last time I did one of these? 4.5 years ago? Wow. Well, hey, spooky season is upon us, and one of my favorite traditions is going back to watch some classic 90s scares. No, not Scream or Blues Brothers 2000. I'm talking about the stuff that melded itself to my psyche when I was a kid. Of course, I refer to Are You Afraid of the Dark and Goosebumps. There are a couple rambling videos on this channel with me pitting them against each other, and I thought now was as good a time as any to do it again. Hopefully without as much rambling. In this corner, from the two-part episode Attack of the Mutant, hailing from a comic book where Adam West plays a crime-fighting gazelle, he'll give you goosebumps, the Masked Mutant! And in this corner, from the episode The Tale of the Ghastly Grinner, hailing from Blue Jello Clown College, he'll make you afraid of the dark, the Ghastly Grinner! Who's the better villain? Let's get it on! To decide this question, we'll divide things up into 3 categories. Who was in the better episode, who was scarier, and who had a bigger impact on their respective story. Let's start things off with round 1. Alright, so we know these guys are somewhat similar, which is why they match up so well. But which story of a comic book villain coming to life is superior? This one is a bit uneven since Attack of the Mutant is a 2-parter with more time to build on its premise, where the Grinner had just one lone installment. Still, recently rewatching these back-to-back, they felt like they had enough time to tell their own story. Are You Afraid of the Dark created a character that people still remember today. The Masked Mutant isn't quite as recognizable, but his disappearing tower hideout made for an interesting and colorful location. A mix of some very dated blue/green screen, practical sets, and I think some miniatures was a real highlight of the 2-parter. Also, extra point to Goosebumps for going the extra mile with their comic book artwork. It seems like in Are You Afraid of the Dark, they hired a storyboard artist to quickly sketch up only the essentials. The acting in the shows are a mixed bag, with most of the Grinner's cast falling into average to below average performances. The Midnight Society are always decent, but within the Grinner story, the only standouts are Neil Crowich as our villain, along with the guy who played the bus driver. Everyone else isn't great, unless you really like hearing Missy Christensen say Sylvester Uncas.
Sylvester Uncas. Sylvester Uncas. Sylvester Uncas. Uncas. Sylvester Uncas. Uncas. Sylvester Uncas. Sylvester Uncas.
Mr. Wrightson is a total jackass, by the way. He takes the kid's rare comic and throws it in a fish tank just to be a jerk. Honestly, this is all his fault, and he got what he deserved. Things pick up once the Grinner shows up, but the story around how he gets out and how he's defeated is sketchy at best. The writing on this series could be very good for what it was, so there's not much of an excuse for the confusing microwave scenario. The Masked Mutant's end is almost as confusing, with him being taken down by forgetting he can't turn into liquid, I think. It was at least clear that Skipper tricked him, though. The acting in the Goosebumps episode is markedly better. Dan Worry-Smith leads the way with a really solid performance as Skipper Matthews, one of the better lead turns I can recall from this series. His parents are stereotypes, but likable enough to not be annoying. However, Melissa Bathory as Libby is aggressively Canadian.
Galloping gazelle? Talk about dumb. The air run out. Cardboard cutout. Let's get out of here, okay? Let's get out of here. I'm out of here. Now we can get out of here.
She's definitely the least convincing character, but spoilers! Considering she was actually the Masked Mutant the whole time, it kind of works. The ending is decently interesting and a bit ambiguous in tone, but we'll go over that more in the 3rd category. The icing on the cake here is Adam West as the Galloping Gazelle.
We only have to save the planet. Shall I give it a whirl? That's it. I'm out of here.
The Grinner's installment had its moments after the antagonist was unleashed, but overall, Attack of the Mutant is the clear winner. Round goes to the Masked Mutant. Both of these characters freaked me out as a kid, but one much more than the other. Scott Wickware as the masked mutant has a great voice and laugh.
You're not real anymore.
In all, the costume isn't too bad either. The double M on his chest reminds me of Miracle Man, which is kind of scary in itself, isn't it? They got some good shots of the character popping out of thin air and shapeshifting a few times that are cheesy, but could be unsettling for a little kid. I think Wickware may have overdone the physicality of the character, but they weren't exactly trying for a pensive, stoic villain here. As for the Grinner...
What's the matter, kids? Can't think of jokes? No! Who needs a good laugh?
This guy is still freaky. The performance and laugh are just what's needed, with the camera angles and underlighting selling his menace. His power of laughing until his victim uncontrollably follows suit with blue goo pouring out of their smiles is a creepy visual. I'd go as far as to say he's among the most memorable Are You Afraid of the Dark monsters, and he gets an easy win here. Point to the Grinner. Which villain left a bigger impact on their story and characters? In terms of the Grinner, he's already trapped his creator in the comic book world before the episode began. Once released, he infects Ethan and Hooper's parents, turning them into chortling maniacs, but that bus driver has got to be his most gruesome victim. Later, he traps Frankie in the comic book world with her dad, I think straight up murdered Mr. Wrightson, and just terrorizes these kids all over the place. He then battles Ethan after the young artist draws himself as a superhero. They fight inside the comic book world until Hooper literally erases the Grinner from one of the storyboards, releasing everyone who is trapped. Because of this, Sylvester Uncas is finally reunited with his daughter, and Ethan becomes a famous comic book artist at a very young age. The masked mutant comes to life one day in search of a worthy adversary, and toys with Skipper for quite a while, first in the disguise of Libby, and then with his cloaked lair. Once inside, he transforms the kid into a comic book character without Matthews realizing, and lets him go on thinking nothing's wrong while stalking him at every turn. The mutant makes the superhero the Galloping Gazelle give up without much of a fight, and only loses to Skipper because it slips his mind that changing into a liquid can kill him. Skipper proclaims himself the Colossal Elastic Boy, with his only weakness being sulfuric acid. The mutant takes the bait. Later, Matthews is, I believe, bleeding ink, and ends the show in full costume as Elastic Boy, to his mother's shock. The kid finishes the episode with an echoing evil laugh, so I'm pretty sure the mutant corrupted him somehow. In any case, the villain completely altered Skipper's being for the rest of his life and may have made him the new bad guy in and out of comic books. This is a tough one. The effects these characters have are very close in magnitude. The Grinner attacks more people in a more visually horrifying way, but the mutant completely destroys Skipper's life and transforms him into a, at the very least, morally ambiguous comic book character. The mutant may have been defeated, yet was victorious in a different way over Skipper, as the Grinner's outright loss led to Ethan's fame in the Uncas reunion. I think I have to go with quality over quantity in this case, and give the point and the win to the masked mutant. The Grinner has the better design, is scarier, and is definitely more memorable, but when we combine these categories, the mutant comes out on top. He has a superior pair of episodes, with his manipulation and transformation of Skipper being just too twisted to ignore. I think the Ghastly Grinner was a great idea on its own and used well enough in the episode, but he needed a better story around him to win that second round. The heart grins, but the mind mutates. What can I say? What do you guys think? Who's the better villain? Who's the better character? Who else should I match up on this resurrected series? I've got another Goosebumps versus Are You Afraid of the Dark face-off going up soon, so keep an eye out for that. Until then, keep on smiling.